Hello and welcome to another episode of the Ferret64 podcast with me, your host, Yemmy the Ferret. Ferret64 is, of course, the one-stop shop for video game news, occurrences, first impressions, and so much more. And we got a nice episode for you today, as we always do. We got some games I've been playing this week, including Metroid Prime 4 and Routine. What is that? Also, we got some news, including a WB Buyout. And then we got some stuff for coming soon, including a new Starship Troopers game. Pretty cool. And a much, much more. Also, real quick, the Ferret Awards, the 5th annual Ferret Awards nomination sheet is available right now. I will link it at the top of the description on YouTube and Spotify if you want to check that out. There's also a information video that I posted on the YouTube channel, the Yemmy the Ferret YouTube channel, if you want to check that out. Any and all nominations are welcome. You don't have to fill out every single spot on there. It's all optional. Just make sure you only fill out one per person. That's all I care about. I've added 3 new sections for this year's nomination period. We'll see if they get into the show, if I get enough nominations on them. So check that out in the description below, please. The nomination period will last between now, December 6th, and the 20th of December. So you got some time just in case there's another game coming out this year that you want to check out, or maybe you're not sure what you want to nominate, but you do have some time there. And then the voting period is going to start pretty much the following week. So yeah, check that out if you so desire. We are going to hop right into episode 301 with what have I been playing this past week. First up, we have Metroid Prime 4. That's right. After a pretty lengthy development cycle, it is finally here. And was it worth the wait? I think so. Are there some annoyances with the game? Yes, and we'll get to that. But in general, I feel like the experience is very good so far. I just got to this snowy region, went inside of a facility and got some ciphers or whatever they're called, and I'm still working through that. But so I would say I'm pretty far into the game, and I think I have a good idea of the flow of the game now at this point. It starts you off in a very different place than where the game goes. And the trailers kind of showed that, where you have like this big battle going on against these space pirates, and Silex is there. Oh my god. And all these all the destruction was happening and blah blah blah. You don't really know how Samus gets to this new green world, or this new frozen landscape, or lava landscape. And people were speculating that, oh well, of course you're flying around to different planets, right? No, everything is on the same planet, but it's a weird, like, planet outside of the solar system. It's not even charted on the Federation maps. And that's kind of where the intrigue begins, because after doing a pretty cool boss fight where you have to aim at the Metroid blobs on the chest of the boss, you get sucked into some sort of portal with the Federation forces and the pirate forces, and you get dumped into this new world. And you are the Chosen One! That's right, Samus is the Chosen One who gets these new psychic abilities that you gradually upgrade throughout the game. It's a Metroidvania, you know? It's about building your character and opening up secret pathways and finding breakable walls. And it definitely still has that aspect to it. What the trailers did not show is the fact that during that opening sequence, you are fighting alongside Federation troops, and they're like cheering, like, "It's Samus, let's go!" You know, and they're like, "Oh, it's so good that you're here, Samus." So somehow you go from bounty hunter to like Federation hero. I guess. I mean, you're still a bounty hunter. They do still call you a bounty hunter in the game. But you are also like the hero of the Federation, and everyone knows your name, and everyone is cheering for you, and everyone like gets your vibe of like, she doesn't talk. And it's like, okay, yeah, sure. And I thought that, like, the opening sequence was fine, even with the chatty characters all around you. I thought it was fine, like, just going through this facility, shooting up the pirates, and trying to get to the MacGuffin. But of course, you get to the MacGuffin a little bit too late because Silex is already there, and he's a badass. So that first boss fight, like I said, it's pretty cool, and it kind of shows you exactly how the rest of the boss fights are going to be laid out a bit. Because unlike most Metroid games that I've played, at least, the weak point isn't really the center mass that you're aiming at, because you press LZ to like aim in and sight in the enemy so you can move all around while still shooting it. And essentially, the little blobs that appear on his chest, they need to be specifically aimed at. So this is where the mouse controls, motion controls, or joystick controls come into play, where you need to aim at the center mass and then move the joystick or the mouse or your motion controls to one of the blobs that are exposed and able to be shot. And it kind of reminded me of Resident Evil a little bit, but at the same time it has its own Metroid flair where it's very sci-fi, and the Metroid blobs they appear every so often and they shoot like beams out It was a pretty cool boss fight, all things considered. And that's kind of how I expect the rest of the boss fights to be in the game, because I think I've done like 4 boss fights now, and 2 of them have been more standard boss fights, and 2 of them have been move the cursor around and try and aim at the weak spot. So it seems to be a good trade-off here and there, where you're using the new mechanics that you're getting for some fights, but some other boss fights you're keeping that core mechanic of aiming with your mouse or whatever. And you might be wondering, Yemmy, have you used the mouse controls yet? And to that I say I used them for about 5 minutes, and I wasn't really feeling it. It just really limited the button layout on the controller. Like, you still had to use all the buttons on the controller in order to shoot and scan things and whatnot, and there's a lot of things to scan. So I think the idea is to use the Joy-Cons separately, and then when you need to use, like, for fighting or whatever, that's when you put the mouse on the ground, the Joy-Con on a desk, and use that. But even then, I wasn't like super crazy about it. I did not try the motion controls. I know there is like a fine-tune motion control to the game as well, and it sometimes pops up because like I'll be playing with my Pro controller and I'll move it a little bit too much, and it's like, oh, you want to use the motion controls, and it's like, well, not really, but since I'm doing it, might as well. That also, I'm just kind of like iffy on that. I've just been using the joystick, which is a little bit slower for aiming and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, it works better for me personally, so that's what I'm going to be using from here on out. And I think the game controls pretty well. The whole scanning thing is still back in full force. Like, everything can be scanned. Some things feel a bit redundant to scan, like, oh, this is just a different box in a different area. But other things are purposeful, like scanning the bosses and the enemies. You learn their weaknesses. You get some tips on fighting them and stuff like that, which is how Metroid, at least Metroid Prime Remastered, was as well. You scan the enemy, you scan the boss, get some extra insight into how to take them out. But at the same time, you also have this guy who's an engineer, and he's sometimes like piping, chipping in like conversation-wise while you're doing stuff. And it's whether it be the engineer or the sniper you meet later, they seem to give you the most basic information ever. And this is like a monkey's paw scenario where during Metroid Prime 4 Remastered, I was like, oh, I just wish that they would push me in the right direction a bit more obviously, because you could click on the map and see like an icon here or there, but sometimes during Metroid Prime you just kind of need to remember where you need to go, right? And so the monkey's paw curls its finger and goes, oh, you want a little bit of an extra push, huh? And it gives you these guys who just pop up during a mission, and they're over the comm link, and they'll be like, oh, you open those 4 doors, Samus. You might want to go inside them. And it's like, duh, that's what I was going to do anyway. There are some moments where the squad members, the Federation forces will chip in, and I'm like, I really did not need this information. Like there was nothing obscure about this puzzle, or there was nothing obscure about what I need to do next. There's one pathway forward in this facility, and I opened up 4 doors around me with one button. I think I know what to do at this point. Where they don't chip in is with the things that may actually be a bit puzzling to a younger audience, like the cipher codes, where you need to manipulate an object with your psychic ability and rotate it so that you get a whatever it's called, and then you also put that onto a door lock, and you use your Joy-Con or whatever to map out the direction it needs to go, and then it unlocks the door. Like that might be something that a small child might need help with. But opening doors, I feel like even my 5-year-old niece could do that. There's nothing too crazy about that situation. But they have the little quirky characters in the background, and they go, "Hey, I'm doing some nerdy shit over here." They don't say shit, but time to nerd out. And it's like, yeah, I mean, it's annoying, it's dumb. I get wanting to mute the audio for the voice lines, but also at the same time, like, this is what they wanted. This is the kind of game that they wanted, and I'm going to play it the way that they wanted. And I don't think it's so annoying that it's like ruining the experience, because most of the time you are just going through an area alone, and you do have the option of talking to the characters at any time by pulling up the map and pressing X, which I have not done yet. And anytime I did even like I was like, oh, you know what, I'm like, I was like, okay, what would this guy say in this scenario? I just want to see, just for the purposes of this podcast. And anytime I would press X on the main menu on the map screen, it would say communications not available. And I was like, okay, sure. But then like a second later, I was like I just got to the desert area, and I was like, I'm not really sure which place I should go to next. So I clicked on the map. It gave me a little indicator of where I needed to go, and then I was like, oh, I should talk to this guy. What does he say after I found that chip? And I pressed X, and it said, communications not available. And I was like, okay, interesting. So I closed the map and drive a little bit further, and all of a sudden he starts talking to me. And I'm like, I thought communications were unavailable. What are you doing here? So there's little weird quirks like that happen a lot. But like I said, for the most part, I don't feel like the characters are like super annoying, but they are annoying enough at times where it's like, yeah, I understand where people are coming from. Like this is getting a bit too much or whatever. And you do leave the engineer guy behind at your home base of operations, which I feel like is where all the troops are going to go to eventually. And like that's fine, like having them at the home base and they chip in here and there. Like I don't think that's going to be super game breaking. And like I talked about when the game was coming out and coming up, and people were worried about these, people talking. It's like, yeah, the whole isolated feeling does kind of chip away at times, but also at the same time, like when they need the vibe to be isolation and alone, you are alone, and you don't hear the voices from your comrades in the background. So it's not like they're super intrusive all the time, but they could have maybe had an option where it's like, hey, I want a less chatty engineer. Hey, I want a less chatty sniper guy, because I don't need the pushes in the right direction for the most basic shit. Like maybe later on, if the puzzles get a little bit more difficult, then, maybe I'll want the little hint from Atreus. But for right now, I'm good. I just want to play the game. But it is a bit of a different vibe from the other Metroid games I played. I have not played 2 or 3, so I don't know how those games work in terms of like allies, or if there's any allies at all. I heard that Metroid Prime 3 had a few characters in it, so I'm not entirely sure if it just is building off of that premise. But having these little allies around, they do stuff for you every so often. Like the one guy enhances your blaster to have elemental attacks on them, which is like, okay, that's nice. At least he's useful, But then he also says some of the cringiest dialogue in the game, which Samus is just like there and just like nods and stuff while he's talking. And it's like, you're a badass bounty hunter, Samus. Like, ditch this dude who is like making jokes and being quirky and Ryan Reynolds-esque. But no, she respects everyone too much. But yes, I'm having a good time with it either way. I think that the main sticking point for a lot of people is the characters in the game, but for me personally, it's like it's annoying sometimes, but I can kind of live with it for now, and we'll see how that goes. I do plan on beating Metroid Prime 4 either this week or next week. I do want to get it done before the year's up, and then I want to get back on some other games as well. It's kind of like a crunch time period for me, even though my top 10 list doesn't come out until January. I do still have a limited amount of time to finish as many games as I want to, or any games that I feel like I would want to, before the end of the year, end of the cycle. And I give myself a little bit of leeway. I do the top 10 list usually towards the end of January, so that gives me a little bit of time to lock in my list, which I already have made my top 10 game pick. But yeah, obviously that could change if I play another game and I like it more than a game that's on the list or whatever. And it was already hard enough to make the list this year, like with the games that I had on there and the games that I had finished. And I think I did a pretty good job of finishing games that came out this year. I played a bunch of longer games that I was a bit burned out of longer games down the stretch. So a game like Borderlands 4. I didn't even finish because it was just too grating of an experience for me. But something like Metroid Prime 4 or any of the games that I'm going to talk about today, I'll get through them. I'll probably get through them. And also like Legend of Zelda, what's it called, Age of Calamity. I'll probably get through that as well. But it's just the way that it is. Some days I just don't want to play a game, and I get out a game, and I'm like, yeah, I just don't want to play this right now, or yeah, but I can't force myself to continue this right now, and that obviously puts me behind on some things, and that's kind of what happened with Pokemon ZA, and that's what happened with Age of Calamity, where it's like I could play this for more hours, I could play this more, but I'm just not feeling it right now, and by the time I do feel like playing a game, Metroid Prime 4 is out or something else is out that I want to play instead. So it's just how it is. It's just how it is. But I feel like this year I have played all of the big games that are big, in the gaming landscape, and also I've played a lot of games that are me games that I really wanted to play. And I feel pretty good about the list so far, and we'll see if it changes in the future. But as of right now, my top 10 is not locked in per se, but I do have 10 games picked, and we'll see what happens as I play more games. But speaking of games, I played Marvel's Cosmic Invasion. This is the new 2D beat-em-up side-scroller adventure in the Marvel universe. You play as a plethora of Marvel characters, and the Watcher is the one narrating and telling the story, which makes sense. And essentially what the story is for this game is there's like bugs, like cosmic bugs in New York City, and some sort of like faction off of Hydra. What, I don't even remember. It's been a bit of a week. But essentially, the two factions join forces, like Hydra and the bugs, invading bugs, join forces, and they have like mind control, parasites, and they have all these different allies as well that you need to take down, like Claw and Venom and whatever. So of course, yeah, you gotta beat them up, and that's essentially the main gist of it. And I think this game sounds great. The soundtrack is amazing. Graphically, it looks pixel perfect for an old school beat 'em up type of game. The voice lines leave a little bit to be desired. They got, the character voice lines aren't bad per se, but sometimes they sound a bit robotic, and I was almost wondering if like the voice actress for Storm was an AI like bot, because of the line delivery was just so stiff and it didn't sound right. And I was like, no, it can't be. They can't be using AI for this. Like, I don't believe that. But we'll see if something comes out later on and saying like AI used in this game. We'll see. But I think that in general, like, the combat is pretty fun. The beat 'em up style is pretty fun. It's very button mashy, so you press X a bunch of times, you do a combo. You press Y every so often to do like a special attack. And then you also have like an ultimate attack that you can use and stuff like that. You can switch out characters. You can use 2 characters per level. and you can switch them out and do your thing as either Spider-Man, Wolverine, or whoever. I've already gone over all the characters in the game. Each level does have challenges for 2 specific characters. So when you're playing the New York level, you have to get like 10 knockouts with the spider swing move. And then also, I think Wolverine is the co-character for that one. So you have to get like 15 throw kills with his special ability. So each level kind of has that thing to it where they have an objective for you to complete. And then there's one miscellaneous objective like beat the boss with this character or whatever, right? So I think they did a good job with all that stuff. Now, my main problem with the game, though, is that the continue system is not modern. It is very old school. So if you fail at the boss, you have to restart the entire level again, which is something that has been apparent in a lot of beat 'em up games. But I was hoping for a continue option, especially with the mode that I chose, which was more of a arcade mode where you're going through and it said something like, continues are unlimited, but yeah, it means continues as in like continuing the level from the beginning and not having to restart the entire game, I guess. I don't know exactly, but yeah, the game is fun enough. But I do think that like the loss of progress was a bit of a downer for me. Like I definitely was having fun with the game, but I was like, I just want to kind of cruise through this and mark it beaten because I am having fun with it. But I'm not a huge fan of beat 'em ups. Much like racing games, I tend to get a little bit bored of beat 'em ups if they're longer than like an hour or two because it's just a lot of the same thing. Even though there is a good amount of enemy variety in the game, it is a lot of like, okay, jump and then attack or do a combo on this guy once you stun him or whatever. And they do try to mix it up a little bit. Some characters have like a parry move, which I feel like is pretty good. Some characters have a dodge move. Some characters have a shield on them. All those different things. Each character does move differently, and they do have different abilities and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you are doing a lot of the same thing, and it does start to get a little bit boring, in my opinion. But there is a lot of fun things to the game. Like you fight the pterodactyl guy who is from that pretty famous panel from Spider-Man where Spider-Man's like, you could be curing cancer. And he's like, I don't want to cure cancer. I want to become dinosaurs, or I want to make people into dinosaurs, right? So you fight that guy, and he's pretty funny. He is pretty funny. There's a lot of cool things to this game, a lot of nods to the past in here. Obviously, it's very beat 'em up inspired, or old school beat 'em up inspired. So there's a lot of like food items to pick up and stuff like that. I feel like it's a pretty well-rounded experience. And if you like Marvel and you love beat 'em ups, this is going to be a game that you're definitely going to want to put on your list. I believe it is available on Xbox Game Pass right now if you want to check it out there. Marvel Cosmic Invasion. Pretty good so far, very enjoyable, and I would give this one a thumbs up. Metroid Prime 4, I forgot to say. This is my new thing, apparently. Metroid Prime 4 is also a thumbs up. Maybe not 2 thumbs up right now, but definitely a thumbs up. And Marvel's Cosmic Invasion, even though I'm not like super crazy about it, I still would give it a thumbs up for the Marvel fans out there and for beat 'em up fans. I think that it's a great experience for you people. The people who like beat 'em ups and all that stuff. So, also it's a good vibe. It's a good vibe as well. They did a great job with that. Let's talk a little bit about Elden Ring Nightreign Forsaken Hollows DLC. This is the first and new DLC for Elden Ring Nightreign. This is the first paid DLC for the game. Now, there has been some updates here and there that added new things like the Endless Mode and the purple bosses and whatnot. But now we have Forsaken Hollows, which is actually a whole new map in general. Plus, there's 2 new main bosses to fight and a plethora of smaller mini-bosses as well. There are some enemies and bosses being brought over from the regular side of the game, so it's not going to be all new enemies and stuff like that, but the mini bosses do seem to all be new at least, which is nice, and I do like that. They brought in the demon princes from Dark Souls 3's DLC. They brought in some Shadow of the Erd Tree DLC boss as well. There's a boss in there from that. And those are the only 2 that I've seen right now because we've only gone through the DLC like 3 times now. I think that the offering for the DLC is nice. New bosses, new enemies, etc., etc. But I'm not into the map that they made. The map is very confusing. It's full of dead ends and endless bottomless pits that will kill you instantly. And it just feels more Souls-like than the rest of the game, because the rest of the game is more like a battle royale type thing, extraction shooter, whatever you want to call it. But this new area makes it much more Souls-like, where, okay, you have bottomless pits, you have enemies that just spew tons of poison and stuff like that that'll take you down. You have bosses in some of the most awkward places ever, like by these endless bottomless pits and stuff like that. It's a lot to take in, especially if you don't know where you're going or what you need to do. And some of these areas that you find, like, they're the same as before. Like, oh, this is the cathedral for sleep, but it's not the same. It's actually much different. And there's a lot of different, like, mini bosses in the area, but you can't find, like, we couldn't find the main boss, or maybe we go to this area with, like, the flowers that spew poison, but all that's there is like a level 2 chest, and it's like, that's fine, but also at the same time, like, I kind of was hoping for something more, you know. And there are a lot more bosses scattered around the map, at least per capita, I would say, because the map is a little bit smaller than the regular Nightreign map, and so the bosses seem to be more plentiful. And not all, like, the side bosses in the game do seem to be relatively the same. You have the lady on the horse, you have the tree sentinel, you have Briar of the whatever you want to call it, the guy with the shield who's really fucking annoying. You have all these, you have all these bosses coming back from the main game, but at least the transition bosses from day 1 to day 2, and then day 2 to day 3 are all new. And then, of course, the final boss for the first night is this new, like, 7 sentinel type boss, and that seems pretty crazy as well. And we, the collective we, as in, like, me, Greedy, and Callus, the people I've been playing this with, we kind of agreed that, like, it's a bit crazy, especially that final boss is a bit crazy, because all of the different, like, 7 sentinels, even though they're not all, like, the super healthy, they take a good amount of time to take down, and then at the same time you're being attacked by all of them at the same time, and it just seems a bit unfair. But at the same time, when I was talking about, like, the Madness Goat originally and all that stuff, like, you can go back in the podcast to listen to those conversations I had. You know, I also started out saying, like, oh, this is such an unbalanced boss, like, this is so weird, and I think there's still some balancing issues here and there, but by the time that we beat the boss, you know, we had, like, a good run or a couple good runs. I was like, you know, I guess it is a bit more balanced than when I thought. But there are still some bosses I feel like are a bit unbalanced. But this 7 sentinel boss, or whatever it's called, I don't think we even got to, like, the second phase on it, because we beat all of the sentinels, and then it, like, formed into 7 new sentinels, and I was like, okay, here we go again. And by the time we were all conked out. Of course, we don't know the moveset yet. We don't know anything like that. So it's going to take a little bit of time to build up that the knowledge base that we have for the rest of the game. But at the same time, you know, the whole cryptic nature of this Nightreign the whole Nightreign system is starting to build back up again, where I'm kind of annoyed that they're not more straightforward with what the character abilities do or whatever. Because there's 2 new characters you can use in this game. One guy is like a sorcerer's apprentice. He has a monocle that can target enemies or target allies and give them buffs or debuffs. He can also target himself as well and give himself a buff at times, which is fine. But his, like, ultimates or whatever it's a bit, like, it's hard to without looking it up. I haven't looked it up yet. It's hard to, like, really understand what the ultimate is. Now, the other person that you get is, like, this gothic maiden type character, and she has this ultimate move where it's like she turns into, like, a spike ball and hits the enemy, and if another character does their ultimate, you can use your ultimate again. So it's, like, multiple times over and over again. So you really want to time that stuff out, which is cool. And her regular move thing is, like, she does something to herself, which I think it gives her extra damage for a short amount of time. But once again, it's very cryptic in the description. You kind of got to test things out in the field in order for you to really put your head around these types of things. So it's a bit confusing, much like the original game was confusing. Like, I mean, it took a while for me to learn the Remnant character and the other character who brings enemies from the dead. That was a bit of a tough sell there, but I ended up learning those characters and using them pretty well. And I think we all got the platinum trophy for the game, so we all ended up learning the characters in one way or another, and that was good. You know, that was a good learning experience. But at the same time, we had to look up a lot of things and, you know, just kind of test things out and go from there. And, you know, in a Souls-like game, that's kind of par for the course, I guess, is like learning the game and getting tips and hints from other people. But at the same time, like, there's some basic things that are hidden behind, not even tutorials. They're just hidden in there, hidden mechanics, like the ability on a weapon. It doesn't matter if it's equipped or not. It still gives you that ability. It's like, okay, you kind of had to learn. You kind of had to get told that, because for the longest time, like, we weren't picking up extra weapons because it was like, well, why would I pick up an extra weapon when this one has such a good, +2 strength or whatever when wielding 2 armaments or whatever. So, yeah. So it did take a little while for us to learn the main game. So I'm guessing this Forsaken Hollows, as long as we keep on it, we'll be able to hopefully learn more about that and get through it, because so far I think that, like, the new enemy variety is nice. They did not do what I was hoping, which would be bring over new enemies, not just from Elden Ring, but they did bring in a couple of new bosses from. There's one definitely from Dark Souls 3's DLC and then the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, so that's nice. And then 2 new main bosses. I'm sure they're going to be cool eventually down the road. But right, you know, the first day playing it was a bit frustrating because you didn't know the map, we didn't know the bosses, we didn't know what to expect. It's hard to even tell what to do at some of these locations on the map. So once again, like, I don't want to blow it out of proportion, but it was a rough first time playing the DLC. But I think that as we go through it, we'll acquire knowledge and go from there. So right now, it's getting a bit of a sideways thumb from me for the DLC. But I also started off Nightreign kind of being like, well, you know, sideways thumb-ish. You know, so we'll once again, we'll see what happens. I am interested in playing more of it, of course, and seeing what it has to offer. And we'll go from there. Finally, for the games that I've been playing, well, new games I've been playing this past week. I do still have 2 games to talk about in the streaming category. But I also played and finished Routine. This is a game that I thought was coming out next year, but it actually came out this past week on the 4th, the same day as Metroid Prime 4, which was a great day for them to release this game, because I didn't even check to see that this game was released until, like, yesterday. So I played and finished this game because it's not too long of a game. But it did take me a little bit longer than I was expecting, because there are some pretty wacky puzzles in here to get around. Now, what is Routine? From the trailers, you probably don't even know what this game is. You know, it's very dark and ominous. And there's, like, this robot that you're aiming, like, some sort of gun contraption at. Like, so you're going into this game, I didn't really know what to expect. I knew that there was some sort of gun thing, and there was robots, and that's kind of all I really knew. And I was wondering if it was going to be kind of like you hack the robot with the gun while it's stunned or whatever, or something like that. So the game is very heavily inspired by 80s sci-fi and, like, 80s technology version of sci-fi. Mainly, you can tie it back to Alien, the Alien franchise. And it is also very inspired by Alien Isolation. I believe the visual style is very close to that, where it's kind of got that, like, grainy filter over it, and everything is kind of inspired by, like, the old DOS programs and stuff like that. And that's the analog future. And this is something that I was asking for, like, last year when I was talking about I think I was talking about Alien Isolation, where it's like I just love the analog sci-fi aesthetic. Like, it is such a cool aesthetic. It's what they thought the future was going to be like back in like the 80s and whatever, and with that technology from the 80s, like going forward with that. And so you have like these really quirky little things inside there, like, instead of it being a just autonomous robot that walks around, it's kind of like got like, I don't know. It's got like some like little computer thing in the middle, and it's like, it's kind of weird and looking. There's also like these little like boxy kind of robots that they don't talk normally. They talk with like that vocated voice or whatever you want to call it. It's kind of how like that computer sang back in the day. What's the song he sang? Whatever. So they talk like that. So instead of actually talking words like I am right now, it's actually like sounds mixed together to make the consonants and make the words, which is really cool. I think that's a great idea. It adds a little bit of a creepy factor as well when like one's bugging out in the background, and it kind of gives you like a little bit of a nervous energy, like hearing it talk every so often because it's not working properly, and then like the robot comes around and like smashes it. It's a pretty cool premise there. And like the whole Alien Isolation idea is like, okay, you have like these indestructible robots who you can stun with the like blaster mode on the little gun that you're using, but you can't take them down, you can't shoot them and kill them like the androids in Alien Isolation or the human enemies. They're all just like indestructible, to you at least. So the first like 2 or so chapters, you're just trying to get around these robot guys and shut down the main computer. I guess it's the first 3 chapters actually. So you're going through the first 3 chapters. You're going through like the mall area, and you're getting all the stuff you need for the mall and getting upgrades for your gun. So now instead of just being like a little pellet gun, it also has the option for seeing like fingerprints and heat signatures in through the little scope that's on it. And the idea for the gun is actually pretty cool. So you can't just like press Y and like switch out your mods on it. You actually have to inspect it and then select the mod, and it does a little animation. Then you have to pull it out. So if you're running around with the wrong mod on and you need to stun an enemy, well, you gotta look at your gun, switch it around. So it's very much that adds a bit of stress to the game as well. And then also at the same time, when you look at your gun, you can see the battery level. You can press a button that's like a Wi-Fi connector almost. It's almost like a Chromecast from the past, where that's the only way you can save, and sometimes the only way you can interact with consoles is by pressing the little wireless button. And it allows you to save on a screen or whatever. And then there's also another button that'll reset your display because the display can get out of calibration. So while you're running around, it might get out of calibration. You go to aim it, and then it doesn't, like the scope is like all distorted. So you have to press that button in order to see through the scope properly again. There's one more mod you can get, which unlocks security doors. Essentially, it does a flash against the door's like sensor, and it decides if you have the credentials or not to go through. And the first, like I said, the first 3 chapters are pretty much what I expected. You're getting around these robots, you're finding audio dialogues and diary entries, you're trying to see what happened in the game. And essentially, the AI program that is running the whole facility realizes there's something wrong with the humans. There's like some sort of disease going around, and so it sends the robots out to pacify them and kill them and burn the bodies or whatever before the virus can spread. And you're not sure exactly what's going on at the beginning of the game, of course, so your whole like shut down the AI program thing seems like a good idea at the time, but of course when you do that, that's when the other aspect of the game comes around. And it's actually it wasn't like I didn't expect there to be some sort of twist in the middle of the game, but it was a pretty nice little like add on to the whole idea. So instead of now going around and hiding from robots, there is some sort of entity in the facility. And of course, I forgot to mention, you're on the moon. By the way, you're on the moon. So you're like the last person alive on the facility, and every so often you'll see like these weird tendrils coming out of the ground where like a human body used to be, or maybe because the robots were killing people and shoving them into those like biohazard bags, but these like little like almost plant-like tendrils come out and rise out of the little body bag. So it's a really interesting vibe, and you kind of know what's going on by the time you see like the first one of those, and you're like, okay, so there's something like in the air, something is obviously affecting the humans here, which is causing the robots to kill them, to save the Earth essentially, because you can't let any of these people get back, right? So you reset the AI server, and obviously we're getting into a little bit of a spoiler territory here, but there is an entity walking around the station with you at this point, and they can go invisible, which adds to the creepiness factor and the intensity of the game. And when you first get wind that there's an entity, it's kind of like in pictures and stuff like that, like, oh, look at these large handprints on the wall. Ooh, look at this hair that was scraped against the ceiling. Like, oh, there's something big in here. And yeah, that's exactly it's like a big, almost like the end of the latest Aliens movie. What was it called? Romulus. Almost like the end of Aliens Romulus, where you have like that really weird human-ish looking thing. So it kind of has that same vibe. But of course, like this entity can go invisible, so you have to use the environment to see where it's at. There's a lot of those like little, there's like what are they called? Dividers hanging down, so you can see when it goes through a divider or kicks something on the ground. There's a lot of clutter on the ground as well. So they do a good job of letting you know when the entity is nearby. It also makes a lot of noise as well. But then it stops making noise. Like. And that's when you should be the most nervous during this game. Now, there's a pretty intense puzzle, not intense puzzle, but there's a pretty in-depth puzzle during like chapter 4 where you have to like use a cipher to get a code for a door, and the cipher symbols are hidden throughout the level or throughout the area, and you have to use the heat signature thing to find the symbols and then decipher the symbols into the numbers and then put the numbers in the right order. So it's very like run around the facility trying to find where these things are, and then use the cipher to get the numbers, and then use make sure the numbers are in the right order to open the door. And this probably took me probably about an hour to do, honestly, because it was very intense. And it had one of my least favorite things, in a good way, in a horror game, where the first time this happened to me, it was probably I probably could have shat myself, honestly. But essentially, I was walking from a very brightly lit area. And I was walking pretty cautiously because I wasn't sure where this entity was, because it wasn't making noise. I couldn't hear it, so I was like, okay, maybe I'm okay. And there was a T-junction, so straight, and then 2 pathways leading in either direction. And it was almost pitch black. There was like a little bit of light illuminating here and there. And I was about to turn left, and out of the corner of my eye, there is this figure not really standing there, but it's like perching like Batman or whatever, like perching like a gargoyle with its knees spread like outwards, and its hands like clasped in the middle, making itself look almost like a penis, really. And you can't, like, its eyeballs are just like there's eyes, but the eyelids are like closed, but you can still kind of see the illumination of the eyes on it, and its like mouth is kind of like Joker-ish, I guess you could say. And it's sitting there in the corner waiting for me to make noise while walking by. Actually, I don't even know if you need to make noise. I'm walking by, and I see it out of the corner of my eye, like that ominous fucking statue in the corner. And it took me a second to realize what it was, and then it jumps at me. And I shit you not, I probably would. I probably would have shat myself if I really needed to. But I just ran the opposite direction as fast as I could until I lost it. And that's kind of what was happening throughout the rest of that puzzle sequence. Is like it would just kind of hide and wait, so you're on edge throughout the entirety of the experience. And sometimes it would be hiding in a place like around a corner where you really couldn't see it, but you like pass it and it's in your periphery or peripherals that it was there. And this is like the part of the game where it felt a lot more like Alien Isolation, because it seemed like the entity was learning my habits of like hiding in a corner, waiting for it to go past, or walking slowly in this section, but walking faster in this section because I didn't think that the entity could get to this section, but there he is in the corner waiting for me. And of course, he does walk around still at times, but he's more so invisible now instead of being visible. So it was a very intense, like cat and mouse type scenario, while also adding on the fact that I was trying to solve this ridiculous puzzle at the same time. So I was saving incrementally as I was going through, because there is a save point at the start of the big area. But at the same time, like, the save points don't really matter if because the symbols don't change. But if the entity gets you, the entity gets you. There's nothing you can do. So that was like a whole hour experience of just almost pure terror for me. It was just like such a high intensity just section of the game where it was just, it could be around any corner. It could be around any corner. And of course, I played this game so much the night before that when I went to bed, I had dreams about this game, which is not great for my today's sleep readiness. Like, I'm still pretty tired because I kept waking up from not nightmares, but just like the game making its way into my dreams. But yeah, that whole, like, the first time it happened was really scary. The second time it happened, like, I had a shiver. Like, literally, I had a shiver run down my spine because I knew exactly what I was looking at, and I knew it was about to chase me. So I literally had a shiver running down my spine. So good on them for actually making a truly scary experience here. Because with the robots, it's like, sure, it's scary, but you can get around them pretty easily. You can literally just run past them and then hide like under a desk, or get to the place where you need to go, like through a locked gate or something like that, and you're fine. But with this entity guy, he can follow you around. He can actually get you from underneath desks and stuff like that. And he can also just really surprise you at times. And I was pretty impressed by that. I was pretty impressed in general with the entire game. After that, the game does tone it down a bit. I feel like Chapter 5 and Chapter 6, which is the final chapter in the game, didn't have too much going on that made me feel on edge or anything like that. But that whole middle section was kind of like a golden peak for the game, and it was a very high peak, but it couldn't reach that same level, even with the odd story going on in the background or whatever. So in general, I would say yes, definitely play this game, definitely try this one out, especially if you like first-person horror experiences. It does have some intricate puzzles in there, and I was hoping that they were going to do more with the whole like maintenance aspect of the game. One of the first puzzles you solve is like figuring out what the error code is on a tablet or whatever. And it's like that was cool, like a little problem solving there. Maybe you have to use that further in the game. No, you didn't really have to use that further in the game. And the same thing with the little like scatter shot that you have at the start of the game. Once you get past the whole robot section, you don't really use it too much, which was like, okay, I wish that they would kind of keep implementing these things throughout the game, but they did move on to different modules, and those modules kind of took over the game. Yeah, very good game, very enjoyable. I love the aesthetics and I love the vibe of the game. I thought it was very good. I just wish that it just peaked a little bit too early. It peaked right at that Chapter 4 section, and then it didn't really get back to that point. And also at the same time, I had a little bit of trouble with the enemy intelligence, I guess you could say. It felt like there was some unfair advantages to the enemies, and mainly it was like the entity reaching under a table and grabbing me after I was hiding for a little bit. That happened a few too many times, and I was like, you know what, I just wish that maybe this thing could not just immediately see me when I was underneath a desk. But once again, that could be a whole like learning thing for the entity, where it just learned that I was hiding under a desk a few times. But at the same time, it didn't seem as advanced as the alien from Alien Isolation. But yeah, it's heavily inspired by that. So I guess it wouldn't be unfathomable for that to happen. But anyway, Routine. Good game. Definitely recommend checking this one out. And I gave it a 4 out of 5. And a thumbs up. I say yes, thumbs up. So very cool there. Just a quick little game. Took me about 4 hours to beat in general. And Wasn't too bad. Wasn't too bad at all. All right, some games we streamed this past week. Now, I have been playing Call of Duty games the entire week. And this is our new Call of December special month. So I'm trying to play through all the remaining Call of Duty games I have on my list. Now, there are a few on there, but I feel like we should be able to get through at least 90% of them by the time that it's over, because most Call of Duty campaigns don't take more than 2 streams, or even 3 streams at the most. So we'll see what happens. But yes, we started off with Call of Duty Vanguard, which is a game set during World War II. It was the last Sledgehammer Games game that came out before we got 2 Modern Warfares and 2 Black Ops in a row. And I played Vanguard back in 2021 when it originally came out, and I was pretty disappointed by it. I made a whole video talking about how the guns in the game are anachronistic or not right for the game. Like, there's so many guns that just like either weren't massively produced or they were not seen in the war. Like, there's the Charlton rifle or whatever it's called, was actually just used in New Zealand, and then like the warehouse that was storing them burned down, so like none of the guns got used. There's the AS-44, which is a Russian assault rifle that had like 3 models built, and then the guy who was making the gun died, but it did inspire the AK series in the future. But there was only 3 of those guns ever produced. None of them were used in war. The Itra Burst or whatever it's called in the game is an Italian weapon, which didn't really see too much action in the war. There's a whole bunch of different weapons in the game that just like didn't make any sense. And then like the mainstay weapons like the Lee Enfield and whatnot didn't have a prominent role in the game. Like the Lee Enfield isn't even a part of the multiplayer. It's just in the campaign, which is just kind of crazy in my opinion. So, there's a whole bunch of guns that are missing from the game, including like the FG-42 and stuff like that. And then also like the gun, like there are some guns showing up in sections of the game where they don't make any sense. Like the MP-44 or the STG-44 as it's called in this game. Do you know why it's called the STG-44? It's because it didn't get produced until 1944. So it showing up in North Africa in 1942 does not make any sense. And these are like basic things where it's like, we were okay with this stuff back in the day. Like Call of Duty World War II, I feel like was pretty good with that stuff. And then like Call of Duty like 2 and 3 and stuff like that also seemed to be okay with like having these weapons be in the proper timed places. But like for some reason they just threw that out the window for Vanguard, maybe for weapon variety, I don't know, but at the same time like it's very, very strange. And then you also have these weapons that never even existed, like a grenade launcher or whatever being in the game. It's like, what are we doing here? Like, this is so weird. And then, of course, your characters have special abilities to them, and like most of them are fine. Like the one guy can command troops, the other guy can carry more grenades, and then you have one guy who can see enemies through walls and auto aim at them. Like he has an aim bot, and it's like, what are we doing here? Like this is just so stupid. So. That being said, the game was worse than I remembered. I originally gave this game a 2 out of 5, which I was like, yeah, that's pretty low. But on replaying the game, like the campaign is not good. It's full of inaccuracies. The level design is not good for the most part. There's some fun sections here and there, but it's mostly not fun. And then also, on top of all that, the multiplayer just doesn't feel good, and the zombies mode just doesn't feel good either. So I was very much like, I was even like, somehow I was disappointed with the experience. And I guess I was disappointed because I had just played Black Ops 7 and I rated that one like a 1 out of 5. And it's like, yeah, Vanguard, like it was a 2. Now it's a 1.5 out of 5. Like it is just not a good Call of Duty. In terms of like gun feel, it's not good. But then also at the same time, like in terms of story for the single player campaign and just historical accuracy, it is also not good at all. And the other thing too is like, of course, like most other Call of Duty games aren't historically accurate either. Like I get that, but this one is so inaccurate that it is mind-boggling. Like I can forgive like a silenced pistol or whatever in Call of Duty World War II for that one section. Like, I can kind of forgive that, right? Or, in the original Call of Duty, like, I can forgive them doing the whole, like, trope that the Soviet soldiers would fire upon their own retreating soldiers. Like, that didn't actually happen, right? But at the same time, like, as I'm forgiving them for that, like, Call of Duty Vanguard just does more egregious things that at this point should be even more heavily researched and heavily debunked, but they just keep doing it. And it's like, Okay. Show. Yeah, a 1.5. It got reduced to a 1.5 for Call of Duty Vanguard. This is one that I will not be playing again ever in my life. But thank goodness I have it physically. And then we also played Modern Warfare, Call of Duty Modern Warfare Reflex Edition. We played the Wii version of Modern Warfare. So this is essentially Call of Duty 4, put on the Wii. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. And honestly, it's not a bad version of Modern Warfare. Like if the original Modern Warfare is like an A or an S tier, like this version of it is kind of like a B tier, in all honesty, because the core game is still there. They didn't have to sacrifice any levels or something or anything like that. I mean, there was a couple of things here and there that I noticed that was like, oh, well, there's no choppers during the AC-130 section, or oh, there's maybe there's a few less enemies spawning at this point. But I felt like, in general, the core of the game was good, and it was like, designed for a Wii, not that bad, in all honesty. Like, the gunplay seemed fine for me for the most part. The only thing that kind of like irked me about the game was the fact that the buttons for switching weapons and meleeing and changing your gadgets was a bit more convoluted than I was expecting. Like, to change your gadget, you have to hold down left on the D-pad on the Wiimote and then use the joystick on the nunchuck to select a different gadget, which I thought was just kind of weird. And then also, like, there was a couple crashes during the game. One time during the bog mission, which was kind of annoying, and then another time during the credits, which was like very strange because there's like nothing going on during the credits other than the Modern Warfare like rap. So yeah, that was kind of weird that the game crashed on the credits, but then it also crashed when there was maybe too many enemies on the screen at the same time. So it's a bit unstable of a game, I guess you could say. And the graphics are, of course, a bit worse for wear. But I do have a lot of nostalgia for this game because this was the first game that I had bought with my own money that I didn't need my parents' permission for. That was M-rated. This was before I turned 18 or 17. So I was 16 years old. I went to a used game store that didn't check for ID when you bought games, and I bought Modern Warfare Reflex Edition back in the day. And I felt so like I was so nervous going up to the counter and buying the game, but they just let it go through, and I was like, all right, cool. Because the actual first M-rated game I bought was Halo, but of course my dad okayed it, and he went to the store with me, and we bought it together. So that was technically my first M-rated game, but it wasn't my first solo M-rated game. And then my first actual M-rated game when I had turned 17 was Gears of War 3. I'm pretty sure I bought that new. I think I bought, maybe was it 2 or 3? It was one. I think it was 2. Gears of War 2. But that's just a little history for me, Yemmy the Ferret. Yeah, the Reflex Edition, it's fine. I enjoyed my time with it. I think it works relatively well. It just, obviously it has the crashing problem, and it also has like the worst graphics and whatever. But it's got a lot of charm to it as well. And once we play the remastered version of Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, I'll talk more in depth about the game itself. But just from an outside's perspective, if you have a Wii and you have the ability to get the Modern Warfare Reflex Edition, I don't think it's half bad. I remember playing the World at War Wii version as well, and that one actually is missing a level in the game. I remember that actually working pretty well when I was a kid, too. I never played Black Ops on the Wii, and I think also they ported... I feel like there's one other Call of Duty game they ported to the Wii. It wasn't Modern Warfare 2. They skipped that one. It might have been Modern Warfare 3, but Modern Warfare 3 I thought was on the Wii U. Doesn't matter. Let me know in the comments below if you know the timeline of Nintendo Wii Call of Duty experiences. Anyway, I gave Modern Warfare Reflex Edition a 3.5 out of 5. I had fun with it. Let's go ahead and move on to what's in the news. All right, first up, WB was bought for $82.7 billion with a B, $billion by Netflix. Ooh, boy. Now, of course, this hasn't gone through just yet. They just won the bidding war for WB, or Warner Bros. Discovery. But that means that anything that WB owns, including any video game IP licenses, any TV shows, movies, etc., it's all going to Netflix. And they already sent out emails to people saying, like, hey, here's what to expect from Netflix in the next couple of years after we've bought a WB. Expect DC stuff, expect Discovery Channel stuff, all this stuff. So what does this mean? This means that Netflix now owns NetherRealm, Avalanche Studio, which made Hogwarts Legacy, TT Games, Rocksteady. This is all being transferred over to Netflix, and other IPs like Harry Potter, DC, Game of Thrones, all included in the deal. I believe this also includes the Nemesis system, which has been put on the back burner at WB for quite some time. I believe the Nemesis system transfers rights to Netflix, so maybe we'll actually see something happening there, but I don't know. In a statement on Netflix's website, they said, together, two pioneering entertainment businesses combining Netflix innovation, global reach, and best-in-class streaming service with Warner Brothers' century-long legacy of world-class storytelling. So I think they're talking about like bringing everything, all that stuff over to Netflix. Now, of course, Netflix will be able to also make things for Netflix on, based in these IPs, such as like they could, do a Game of Thrones Netflix show now, or they could do a Mortal Kombat Netflix game or something like that. They could do stuff like this. They could start releasing like Batman Arkham games on Netflix's service. Like this is stuff that could happen. And at the same time, they could also greenlight another Arkham game that's not a free to play, or not free to play, but a Suicide Squad-esque game. Or they could also say like, hey, we want to make a new Lord of the Rings game in the Shadow of War category with that Nemesis system. They could say stuff like this. Will they? It's a wait and see type moment. But there could also be some pretty crazy crossovers here, like K-pop Demon Hunters crossing over with Batman, Sesame Street crossing over with Harry Potter, Casablanca crossing over with Friends. I don't know. All these different things could happen. But this was a long time coming. WB has kind of been struggling for quite some time. The biggest blow to them was the Suicide Squad game, which I think was the main reason why they started this whole sale in the first place. Like they just could not recoup the losses from that. And Netflix is swooping in here with it's $82 billion is no small sum of money. Like that's a lot of fucking money. And Netflix is kind of looking like the monopoly next to Disney now. Like Netflix owns so much already. And if you look at Disney, Disney also owns so much already. Like, these are two dueling factions at this point. They can go head to head in Marvel versus DC. Like, It's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a pretty crazy next couple of years. I think there's gonna be some really surprising announcements, not only from TV and movie shows coming to Netflix, but also the video game world. We'll see what happens. So, I guess I'm kind of optimistic, but at the same time, I'm pretty nervous about the whole thing. And it's going to be hard to tell what's going to happen. This could be another Xbox scenario where Xbox bought Activision, and Activision games have been kind of shitty. We'll see what happens with the Netflix buyout here. We'll see what happens. There's a lot of unknowns at this point. Are they going to reboot that Wonder Woman game? Are they going to make another Arkham game? Are they going to do something with Lord of the Rings? So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see if this is good news or bad news, and that we're not going to really know if it is truly good news or truly bad news until probably a couple of years from now, probably 2027, maybe 2028 at the latest. We'll see. Okay, the Game Awards are coming around this week on Thursday, and there has been a bit of a cryptic statue shown off in like the middle of the desert that Jeff Keighley was kind of like talking about on Twitter, and then everyone was speculating like what could this be? Is it Diablo 4? No, it's not Diablo 4. Is it a new God of War game? No, it's not a new God of War game. Is it Elder Scrolls 6? No, it's not Elder Scrolls 6. So this infamous statue it kind of reminds me of that Saros game coming out from PlayStation. And if I'm wrong about that, so be it. But I have an inkling that this is some sort of promo for Soros, which is the sequel to Returnal. And essentially, what this statue is, it's a kind of like it's like a ball in the center with tendrils coming off of it, and then there's a bunch of like fighting or whatever kind of animals and beasts in the background. Like there's demons, there's bears, there's an alligator, there's a snake, there's soldiers and stuff like that. So if this is not Soros or Diablo or whatever, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's something other, like fantasy related, something like I don't even know, Dragon Age, but they just got a Dragon Age game. I don't know. So there's been a lot of back and forth about this over and over again. It's been confirmed that it's not the Elder Scrolls. It's not this. It's not that. So now new speculation is coming out that it's Lords of the Fallen content or it's whatever. And the most recent thing as of right now is the Game Awards put a reply on Jeff Keighley's original message that said, "The blank are silent, blank bleeds, new blanks stir." And of course, they use spoiler tags on those blank words, so we don't know exactly what those are. But once again, it's very cryptic. We'll see what happens. It could be something like totally stupid, in all honesty. Like this could be like League of Legends content or something like that. I don't know. I hope it's something cool though. But we'll have to wait and see for the Game Awards, which are on Thursday, and I will be live on Twitch to react to the whole show. If you want to check that out, that is coming up on Thursday, folks. All right, Marathon, the game coming from Bungie. They finally settled the plagiarism from the game. If you don't recall, there was a artist who does like these kind of like repeating patterns, symbol type things, very neon color-esque type patterns, whose artwork was actually stolen, ripped off. Actually, no, not just ripped off, stolen, plagiarized for the artwork of Marathon. And the artist's name was N Squared. Twitter at 4NT1R34I or L. But essentially, once that happened, like I was wondering, like, are they going to pay them to use the assets? How are they going to settle this whole debacle? I guess we don't know exactly how they settled it, but it has been settled because the artist came out on Twitter and said the Marathon art issue has been resolved with Bungie and Sony Interactive Entertainment to my satisfaction. So it's unclear what exactly happened, where they paid out with, to use the assets or the artwork in the game. That would probably be the best case scenario because this person gets paid and their art gets shown off in a major game. Or did they get paid a settlement and PlayStation is going to go and Bungie is going to go back and redo those assets? It's hard to say, but the plagiarism was pretty apparent once you you did the side-by-side comparisons, and we haven't gotten any new stuff from Marathon as of right now. So I'm wondering, when they do re-show the game, are they going to have those same elements or are they going to be changed? And what exactly is going to happen? So there's not going to be another play test until the first quarter of 2026, and that is when we will know for sure what all happened. But as of right now, it's been resolved. All right, Yacht Club Games are relying on Mina the Hollower to do well in order to stay in business, which is pretty crazy because they have put out a couple of other games in the past few years, but apparently those games that were based on the Shovel Knight IP, like Shovel Knight Dig and stuff like that, weren't actually developed by Yacht Club Games. They were just kind of like published by them, or the IP was used by other companies, so they weren't really making as much of a return on that investment, I guess. But it came out in an article by Jason Shearer on Bloomberg, who, he's the guy to go to for these types of things. Apparently, the game needs to sell 200,000 copies to be in the clear, and if it's any lower than that, they're going to be in some muddy water. So this is a make or break situation, which is kind of, once again, this is kind of crazy to me. It also explains why they are making sure the game is like really well polished and super good to go by the time it comes out, because any bad press for the game is going to not be a good thing. Like, if Mina the Hollower comes out and people say like, oh, it's very glitchy, oh, it's crashing, oh, it has all this weird stuff in it, that's going to hurt their bottom line. And I think that the game, I think, has been showing off well. Like the previews and stuff like that have been cool, and I think that they're going to sell more than 200,000 copies easily. But at the same time, it's hard to say in this environment, in this video game economy. So yeah, as we know of right now, Mina the Hollower is a make or break game for the developer, and they have had to put the 3D project that they were working on, which I believe was a Shovel Knight 3D project, on hold as of right now until they're done with Mina and they see how it sells. So pretty crazy in my opinion, but it is what it is, I guess. So if you're excited for Mina the Hollower, I would say like, yeah, go out and buy it day one. Because I mean, like I said, the previews look good. So it's not like this is a game that's like, oh, is it going to be good? Is it not going to be good? They look good. They look very inspired by the Game Boy Color era. It looks very, it just looks very vibish, very good. So yeah, I'm just saying, like, if you're interested in this game, I would say this is probably a day one purchase for most people. I think it's going to be like $24 or something like that. I don't remember exactly what the cost was. It's available to pre-order on Amazon. No, it's not. Dead link. All right. So that is that. There we go. Finally for today, Bad Robot Games is teaming up with PlayStation to publish the next co-op game from the same developer same creator as Left 4 Dead. Mike Booth is set to make another game. Hopefully this one goes better than Back 4 Blood, but I believe Back 4 Blood wasn't made with the creator of Left 4 Dead. It was just made with some of the people from the Left 4 Dead development studio. Correct me if I'm wrong, of course. But yeah, on Thursday, they announced a partnership. Bad Robot Games, a partnership with PlayStation to publish the next title on PS5 and PC. With Mike Booth at the helm, it'll be a new 4-player co-op shooter. There will be more details coming in the future as they start working on the game, or as they continue working on the game. In a press release from, I think it was from PlayStation, or maybe it's from Bad Robot, it said, with the support of PlayStation, we hope to deliver a bold, innovative experience that is truly special for the players. I could not be more excited that Mike Booth is at the creative helm, crafting a cooperative adventure that will lead to unforgettable moments with friends. Sony also chimed in and said their unique creative voice and passion for innovating across all forms of interactive entertainment perfectly aligns with SIE's mission to craft experiences that resonate deeply with players. We can't wait for gamers to step into the world they've been building. So perhaps by the time the next State of Play comes around next year, we'll get some information on this one. But that's pretty exciting indeed. We'll see what they're cooking. 4-player co-op kind of game. We'll see. Like I said, Back 4 Blood. I mean, I guess Back 4 Blood did have an audience. Like there were people playing it. But I don't think it had the longevity. Like, I think people still go back and play Left 4 Dead at this point, like Left 4 Dead 2 at least. Back 4 Blood just does not have that longevity that Left 4 Dead did, or does still to this day. So yeah, we'll see what they're working on. Hopefully it's not something in the same vein as Back 4 Blood, but hopefully more so in the vein of Left 4 Dead. Once again, we'll see. Let's move on to what's coming soon. All right, first off, we have a new Starship Troopers game coming out called Ultimate Bug War. This was freshly announced during the PC Gaming Showcase, and it winds the clock back to a simpler era of the PS2 style, variety, I should say. Complete with FMV sections and PS2-inspired graphics and gameplay. And honestly, this looks really good. I don't know what it's going to be exactly. It looks like a first-person shooter, of course, at the on a base level here. But I don't know if it's going to be like a story-based game or a horde-based game. I don't think they said yet, but from the little like snippets of gameplay that we saw, you're shooting bugs, which of course, that's the main thing. One, shoot the bugs. I don't know if it's gonna be like a co-op game or whatnot, but yeah, it looks like it's gonna be pretty good. Starship Troopers Ultimate Bug War. This is coming in early 2026, and I'm very excited for that. You can wishlist it now on PlayStation. I believe it's also going to be on PC and Xbox as well in the future. But this is coming from the same studio who did Warhammer 40,000 Bolt Gun, which was a throwback to boomer shooters of old with the Warhammer skin on it. And now we're getting some sort of like maybe even Killzone inspired game here. I just played Killzone, and the graphics do kind of remind me of that old school Killzone style. So hey, we'll see. We'll wait to see more about that once it comes out or is closer to coming out next year sometime. But I'm excited for that. I'm very excited for that. Also, Romeo is a Dead Man got a release date trailer. If you don't know what this is the next game coming from Suda51, Grasshopper manufacturer development team. And it looks crazy and wild and polished as all hell. I think this is going to be another good inclusion in the Suda51 catalog. And it seems like it's so at the end of the trailer it said episode 1 is launching on February 11th, 2026, PlayStation, Steam, Xbox. And so yeah, it says episode 1, Romeo dies, 26/2/11, and I don't know, like, is it going to be an episodic release or something like that? Like, it's hard to say. And the website I'm looking at now is just saying the game comes out on that date, but like it could be like maybe a bit of a staggered release. Like maybe there's a couple episodes with it, because we've already seen that there's a lot of different styles in this game, from comic book to realism to pixel art graphics. It's hard to say exactly what this game is going to be, but that's kind of the same thing for all of the No More Heroes games and stuff like that. It's hard to describe exactly what the game is to a person who maybe has never heard of a Suda51 game. So actually, Suda came out and said this. He said, "Now we've won our game of chicken against a certain twice-delayed 2026 release. We can reveal our cards and confirm we never intended to launch in May in the first place. We're wrapping space-time to put the finishing touches on Romeo as a Dead Man ahead of its launch next February." So if you don't recall, I believe Suda51 was defunded or something like that from the publisher that they were using. And now they've, of course, found a new publisher, which I believe might be PlayStation. And of course, they got the game back on track, and now they're going to be releasing it early next year. A lot of games coming out in January and February next year. It's going to be a very stacked early part of the year, so get ready for that, gamers. Speaking of PlayStation, the Fighter 2XKO is coming out on PlayStation in a couple of weeks. It is going to come out in January of 2026, as confirmed in a console release and competitive series video on 2XKO's YouTube channel. It's going to be coming to PlayStation, and I believe it's also going to be coming to Xbox as well. Not Switch 2 quite yet, so we'll have to wait a little bit for that. In the press release, they said, in 2XKO, good teamwork makes the difference between victory and defeat. Fight solo to control both champions on your team, or grab a friend to duo with. Switch up your game every match with fuses, powerful playstyle modifiers that change the rules your team plays by. So, yeah, this is also nominated for the Game Awards, the Best Fighting Game category, which is pretty cool. And if this is a free-to-play game? Yes, it is a free-to-play game, so I think a lot of people will be jumping on this one. Lots of colorful characters, lots of cool-looking animation styles in there, and yeah, console release, it's looking pretty good for 2026. We are getting a new Carmageddon game. I believe the last Carmageddon game, which was called Max Damage, came out in like 2020 or something like that on the PS4. It was quite a while ago now. But now, Carmageddon Rogue Shift is going to be coming out next year on February 6th. Once again, that February-January slot is just going wacko, going crazy. There will be 15 upgradable vehicles, 13 weapon classes, and over 80 different perks to strengthen your vehicle as you fire through the horde of mutants and weird growths or whatever you want to call them. But yeah, Carmageddon, this is coming next year. It looks pretty good. It's going to be available for $40 on the release date. There's a 10% discount if you go to pre-order it right now, if you so desire. A lot of people are complaining that, like, hey, you know, this is looking a little bit too much like Twisted Metal. But at the same time, it's like, well, it's still a racing game. Like, you're still racing through these enemies and butchering them. It's like if it was Twisted Metal flavored, like, yeah, sure, the cars maybe are a little bit Twisted Metal flavored with the guns and stuff on them. But at the same time, like, if it was truly Twisted Metal flavored, it would be just a car demolition derby type thing. So yeah, I don't know where people are coming from for that, but yeah, it looks pretty fun in my opinion, and we'll wait to hear more about that when it gets closer to launch on February 6th. Sony has announced the MLB The Show mobile app for iOS and Android. This is so you can take your MLB dreams on the go, complete with quick play mode and, of course, Ultimate Team, because we need to make that extra money. That's right. Graphically, it doesn't look terrible, I guess I would say, for a mobile game. But also at the same time, who wants to play a baseball game on a mobile device? In portrait mode, nonetheless, I don't know. I don't know. You'll be able to bat, pitch, and field using touch controls, and you'll gradually build your dream team by collecting player cards, which will then earn XP and upgrade your players to make them more valuable. Like I said, it's probably going to be filled with microtransactions for that Ultimate Team kind of mode that's going on right now. And yeah, so this is officially out right now, I believe. There's maybe a beta mode for it right now. This is not something I was expecting to see in the MLB, but I'm guessing that maybe the MLB was pushing for something mobile friendly, and PlayStation was like, all right, fine, we'll do it, much like they put the game on other platforms now. So yeah, MLB The Show on mobile. There you go. All right, Styx, Blades of Greed. It has a new release date. It's been delayed from 2025, shocking, to, once again, February next year. So February 19th, 2026 is when the next Styx Blades of Greed game is going to be coming out. In the press release, from Styx's own perspective, he says, yeah, I know. Waiting isn't your favorite thing. Mine neither, unless I'm waiting in the dark to stab someone, of course. The devs are taking a few extra months to polish everything up, tweak the bits that need tweaking, and make sure that my grand return is glorious and chaotic as it deserves to be. So, yeah, this follows Master of Shadows, which I wasn't too big of a fan of, and Shards of Darkness, which I actually warmed up to. And so I'm actually pretty excited for Blades of Greed. I know it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, so we'll see how it goes when the game officially launches February 19th, 2026. Which is like right around the time as, I don't know, every other game in February. So, yeah, like I said, it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. I'm sure most people don't even know that this game is probably coming out. But as a person who became a fan of Styx through playing the second game, I am pretty excited for this. And, it does look pretty good. Like, I know this is just a little bit of a cinematic cutscene kind of thing going on right now, but the actual gameplay they showed off a few months ago looked really good. And I'm very excited to try this one out, and maybe I'll even stream it because I've streamed every single Styx game. We'll see. All right, Clockwork Revolution. The developer shared a new message about the game after it was nominated for the most, most wanted? Yeah, most wanted games of 2026. So they did a bit of a video for the game as well, but I will sum up what they said right here from Pure Xbox. The reaction of our last trailer absolutely blew us away. The passion, the theories, the excitement from the fans, it's all been incredible fuel for our team. I can tell you this is the most complex game I've ever worked on. Between the character creation that really matters, the reactivity, and if you've seen the trailer, you've seen how gritty and dark humor really shines through. We're making it way more complicated for ourselves by taking visual reactivity to an entirely new level, letting players go to the past and then rewrite history through their choices in the game. And to think, we've only shown tiny glimpses of the world, the mechanics, and the wild characters you're going to meet. So there is still no official release date for this yet, but we can expect it to maybe come out in 2026 at this point. This was originally revealed in like 2024, 2023, something like that. And ever since then, it's been on the top of my list for quite some time. So yeah, if you want to check out the latest video for that, it's on the Clockwork Revolution Twitter page, if you want to check that out. So there you go. Also, in other Xbox Game Pass news, because of the Clockwork Revolution is also coming to Game Pass, Replaced. This is a game that was revealed quite a while ago, if I remember correctly. When was that YouTube video posted? I don't even see it anymore. I believe it was like 2023 or something like that they showed this off at like an Xbox showcase event, and it looked really cool. It was like a 2.5D fighting game or whatever. It was like a little like these pixel art graphic style as well. It looked really cool, really stylistic, and was originally supposed to launch March 12th of next year, and well, they're confirming, yes, it's going to be coming March 12th of 2026. So we do finally have a release date for it, set in stone. And in a press release, they said, Replace is a 2.5D cinematic action platformer wrapped in an intense cyberpunk thriller narrative. Run, climb, and fight through crumbling districts, industrial wastelands, and neon-lit alleys with fluid movement and fast, responsive combat. Chain precise melee strikes with satisfying ranged attacks to take down enemies in high-intensity encounters while keeping the flow of exploration. So yeah, this was actually shown off in 2021, so even longer than I thought. But yeah, we finally have a confirmed release date of March 12th. I guess there was a new trailer for it. So that's cool. This just actually just came out, so I misread that earlier. But yeah, we do now officially have a release date, March 12th, 2026, and I'm pretty excited for this. If you want to check out the trailer, the release date trailer, it's on IGN's YouTube channel. And finally, here are some games leaving Xbox Game Pass on December 15th. We have Mortal Kombat 11, Still Wakes the Deep, Wild Frost, Carrion, and Hell Let Loose. Which there's a couple of games in here I would definitely recommend playing through. Still Wakes the Deep is a really cool oil rig horror game. It got some DLC recently as well. I believe it was last year, actually. Last year it got some DLC, which people say was pretty good. Carry On, this is a reverse horror game where you play as the monster, which I thought was pretty good. Hell Let Loose is a really good hardcore first-person shooter. Very much relies on cooperative play styles. Mortal Kombat 11 is fine. I like Mortal Kombat 10 and 9 better, but Mortal Kombat 11 was fine. And I don't know what Wild Frost is. I don't know what Wild Frost is. Also, Xbox has given me some points today. Thank you, Xbox. You probably didn't hear that because it's on my speakers, but still. And that is that. So let's move on to the final part of the show, which is Guess That Screenshot. Woo-hoo-hoo. People are loving Guess That Screenshot. Let's go ahead and look at today's screenshot right now. All right, if you know what game that screenshot is from, let me know in the comments below on YouTube or Spotify, and I'll give you a heart and a congratulations. Or head over to the Discord in the Fair64 section and comment there what you think the screenshot is, and I will give you a super reaction, and you'll get the admiration of your peers if you get it right. Also, folks, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the podcast, episode 301. We're just starting our journey to 400. We'll get there eventually. But I appreciate you listening to this episode. If you don't mind giving it a like on YouTube or rating me out of 5 stars on Spotify, that always helps the podcast. It helps the podcast grow and get sent out to more people. I got my Wrapped for the Fair64 podcast this past week, and was very appreciative of the growth that we saw this year. We had a bit of an uptick of 37% new followers this year and 7% increased listening time, which is great. It's probably because It's probably because I've been doing some longer episodes here and there. Also, I was the top 5 podcast for 5 people, which I appreciate very, very much, that people have been listening to this podcast enough that it's been in their top 5. And I believe it was in the top 1 of 3 people's podcasts. So that's pretty awesome. I appreciate that so much. And you can help. You can help with that by also listening to the podcast, whether it be on YouTube or Spotify. It doesn't matter to me. Also, Apple Podcasts and other podcast platforms as well. If you want to check out anything else I do, it's all at Yemmy the Ferret, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, etc. Yemmy the Ferret VODs channel for all past streams. I also have a Ferret 64 Clips channel up right now, which I've been uploading every so often there, some clips from the podcast. Hasn't really been doing anything over there, but I'm trying. I'm trying some different things. That's all I can say. Also, I stream on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturdays. Right now, we are doing Call of Duty month. If that sounds if that sounds interesting to you, make sure you tune in. We're going to be starting Call of Duty Ghosts on Monday. So if you want to check that out, that'll be Monday. We start that up around 4 o'clock on weekdays. Other than that, like I said, it's all at Yemmy the Ferret. I very much appreciate you listening to this podcast. I will talk at you next week. And I'll see you on Thursday on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Yemmy the Ferret, for the Video Game Awards. I'll see you there. Have a good week. So long. The Ferret 64 podcast is owned and edited by Yemmy the Ferret. Sound clips included during the podcast were made by Yemmy the Ferret. The Ferret 64 logo was made by Player2P2. The intro and outro music was made by Gail Laliot on Fiverr. News sources include PushSquare.com, NintendoLife.com, and PureXbox.com. All opinions are my own. Thank you for listening.